Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Being My Own Boss, Redefining Career Paths panel event. It's presented by the Office of Multicultural Student Affairs at VCU as part of our month-long celebration of Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. My name is Dave Brown. I'm the office manager at OMSA, and I use he, him pronouns. I'll be facilitating today's program discussion as well as the Q&A afterwards with our guests. So we'll get right to it with our special guests, Daniel Martin and Amy Black.
Amy, you go first.
Okay, so the first question is for both of you. And can you introduce yourselves as well as tell us a little bit about what you currently do for a living?
Sure. I am Amy Black, and I own and operate my own private tattoo studio here in Richmond, Virginia. And I also founded a charity for mastectomy tattoo called the Pink Ink Fund. That started in 2011, and I've been tattooing in Richmond since 2000.
Wow. Gosh, that just made me realize how long I've been gone from Richmond.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I am Daniel Martin. I am a makeup artist. I started my career in Richmond, and I left Richmond in 2000. So I've been in New York 21 years. So crazy. Yeah, so I'm a New Yorker now, I guess. But Richmond's like my third home. I'm originally from Seattle, so.
Okay, well, a quick follow-up into that would be what actually brought you to Richmond originally, and when did you relocate to New York, which actually you just said?
So my mom used to live in Germany, and her husband relocated to Fort Lee, and that was my first time seeing her since she was gone. And I came out one summer, I think it was the summer of 93, 94. And I just fell in love with Virginia. I had never experienced, I came out in the summer, went back home to Seattle, and then I came back out in the fall, and it was right when everything was changing. And that was my first time really experiencing that seasonal change in the mid-Atlantic. And I had met some friends already there, and I literally dropped out of college and never didn't go back to Seattle, because I knew eventually I wanted to be in New York, and I wanted to be a club kid. And I think I think I went to a rave in DC, and that was the bug. And I dropped out of college. My parents weren't happy about that. And then I wound up, staying in Richmond for 6 years. And that's where I started my career. I worked at Tower Records at Willow Lawn. That's gone, I believe. But I still have so many incredible friends there. So yeah, like Richmond's here for me. It's so when I got asked to do this, I was like, hell yeah, because I remember hanging out at VCU and going to all these shows on Gray Street. So it's definitely part of my history.
Awesome. So Amy, when did you move to Richmond, and what made you actually want to stay here?
I moved here at the end of 1998 from Ohio. I was ready to get out of Ohio because I spent most of my life there growing up, and I just felt like the art scene was way more vibrant as you got out towards the coast versus the middle of the country. And I got to visit Richmond with a friend who was getting tattooed. And so that was my first experience, and I really loved the vibe. There's friendly people. The art and tattoo scene here right then was just massive. And yeah, I was like, this feels like it might be the place for me to transition to. So yeah, it was awesome.
Awesome. So Dan, can you tell us a little bit about Tatcha and how you became their first ever global director of artistry and education, and what that actually means you do?
Yeah, so I was introduced to Victoria Tsai, the founder of Tatcha, about 11, 12 years ago. And she had found me on LinkedIn. At the time, she created these blot papers. And she emailed me and sent me these blot papers, and I just wound up falling in love with them. They are created out of this paper that they use to hammer gold in Kyoto. And there's gold flecks in the paper, and the geisha wound up stealing these papers from the goldsmiths because they found that it picked up a lot of the moisture out of their makeup without interfering their makeup. So Vicky was like, wow, this is incredible. You know, let me, you know, see if I can do something with it, with these papers. And she created the brand. I wound up using the papers backstage at New York Fashion Week. And a Vogue editor, a friend of mine saw them, wrote about them, and that's kind of like how our relationship snowballed. So I was working as a friend of the house, so to speak, for like 10 years with them. Previous to Tatcha, I was with Christian Dior and Jessica Alba's brand, Honest Beauty. But Tatcha really is an incredible skincare line, and it changed my skin. I have really sensitive, reactive skin, and everything was really gentle. I love using the product before makeup, and when this opportunity came as global director with them, I definitely, you know, I couldn't say no, because it's like a dream of a lifetime to have this position and still also have my day job as a makeup artist. So I do product development for them. I do education for them. I also help them with PR, marketing. So it's a little bit of everything, which has been fun.
Awesome. So Amy, when and why did you become a tattoo artist?
I started apprenticing here in Richmond, Virginia in 2000, but I got my first tattoo back in 1991. I was 16.
Amazing.
But so I've been getting tattooed for a couple of years before then, and just absolutely loved it. And I decided to take a stab at doing what I loved, you know, see if it would work out. And I got really lucky and it worked out. So yeah, I mean, I grew up always doing art in some aspect, whether it was drawing, and I did go to art school for a couple years with a focus on fine art oil painting and figurative things, and a love for anatomy. So that's where where I got my first tattoo, and then it just kind of like kept growing. I kept on collecting tattoos and falling more in love with that art form as well. So when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, let's make this, see if I can make this dream happen. So that was pretty much it.
So Dan, why and when did you become a makeup artist?
Oh gosh. I grew up with three sisters, so I was always around makeup. Again, like Amy, I was an artist. I was an art history major, so that's always been in my DNA. But I didn't realize that you can make a living as a makeup artist until I actually started my career, or started like, I got into makeup working at the Matte counter in Seattle. Then when I got to Richmond and discovered Aveda working at this concept salon, Austin's, that used to be in Carytown, that's when I really fell in love with the role and what you could do with it. And I knew that eventually I was gonna wind up in New York. And like Amy, I started apprenticing at the salon. And it was the first time that I was able to make money doing what I loved. I couldn't cut hair because I can't cut a straight line. So I definitely was not doing hair. But yeah, that's where I kind of got a taste of it. And then I started teaching for the brands. So there's the Aveda Institute in Soho that I used to come up to teach. And then I made the jump in 2000. So.
Cool. So Amy, what brought on the transition from just tattoo artist into the Pink Ink Fund nonprofit?
That wasn't something that I actually sought out. That sort of came to me, just like the first mastectomy tattoo I did back in 2010. a survivor, a breast cancer survivor who was in Richmond, Virginia, was hoping to find a female tattoo artist to help her recreate the illusion of a 3D nipple on one of her reconstructed breasts. And so after I got to do that, and that opened up a job with a team of local plastic surgeons, and you guys can probably relate to this quite a lot. I didn't have health insurance at that point in time in my life. Like no one had health insurance. Our health insurance was Robitussin and Hope. So
Is patient, was it called Patients First?
Yep.
Is that
It's
okay?
still here.
Yeah,
so
that was
yes, that was new to me coming from Columbus, Ohio, because we didn't have that there. There was no doc in a box there. So I just assumed once I started doing these tattoos that there would be other people who would be blocked from getting the tattoo they wanted after dealing with cancer, because they would have to go outside of their insurance network to do it. And it just really it broke my heart to think that somebody wouldn't be able to get what they really, really wanted to try to heal post-cancer. So that's what started the charity. It started as a small private fund. I wasn't even sure if it would become a full-fledged charity for a while. And after I had started it for about a year and a half, one of my friends came up to me. She's younger than me, in her early 20s, and she was just waiting tables, and she thanked me for starting it because she was nobody knew, but she had the BRCA gene, which is a genetic marker in your DNA that can sometimes mean that you're going to have a higher risk of being diagnosed with breast cancer. And she had been battling with that diagnosis, and thinking of dealing with all of the medical stuff that comes with that. But she was also worried about how she was going to look after she had to go through surgeries, and how she was going to pay for, her any tattooing that she would want to have anyone do. Specifically, of course, she was talking about coming to me. And so that's when I was like, okay, this private fund was not a terrible idea. And that's when I thankfully had some friends who had already started other nonprofits who helped me turn it into the nonprofit that it is today.
That's amazing, Amy.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. I tell people all the time, I'm the lucky person who is able to be there to help others and to make this thing happen. So I'm always super grateful for the
It's neat because you started it as like a passion project and it became the charity, versus a lot of times people go, man, I could make a bunch of money doing this.
Yeah.
And it's like you went the opposite way that a lot of people start something like that. And and I mean, it's interesting to think, like, what if you didn't have that first like experience having to do that? Like, how long would it have taken to eventually come to this path, or would you have never gone to that path at all? So it's neat how 20 years later it's all evolved so much. So let's see. So Dan, how has COVID-19 and social distancing impacted you as a makeup artist, since you do have to be so up close and personal to do your job?
It really sucked in the beginning, I have to say, if I can be completely honest. But I have to say, like, I literally had just gotten back from London 3 days before they shut the borders down. And I was trying to figure out, how I was going to get back. And then I had all this other work lined up that obviously didn't happen afterwards. But it really made me realize the hustle I was doing up to that point. I spent like every week for 3 years on a plane going somewhere. And it was the first time that literally I didn't have anything ahead of me for months, that it was like a blessing in disguise, because it really made me kind of rethink my, this, I don't want to say this life, but like, it just put a lot of shit in perspective for me, and it made me realize what I had, what I want, and what I needed. Because when you don't have all of that to think about, you really understand what you don't need. Do you know what I mean? Like, it put so much shit in perspective for me. Like, I don't need to be having to do every single job. I don't need to be hustling to work with the, you know, the starlet actress. Like, I just I'm really lucky that I can make these kinds of decisions at this point in my career. But yeah,
Well,
it
it
just
kind of showed you that you could. It showed you could say no, because
right, right.
I've known you for as long as I've known you, which is over 20
20,
years at this point.
yeah, yeah.
That you've always been like, you've jumped through so many hoops for so many people, and it's like to have the world kind of say, hold up, you don't have to say yes all the time. And you know, and not saying you used COVID as an excuse, but you used COVID as a like reason to kind of rethink how you did stuff. So
Oh,
that's real interesting.
100%. Yeah, it was a total reset for me. So yeah, I'm grateful that it happened because it definitely changed a lot for me. But yeah, I couldn't touch anybody. Now it's still it's getting so much better, you know what I mean? But at the beginning, it was almost like, you know, don't even look at me because you didn't know what was going on.
Well, cool. And similarly, like Amy, how has the pandemic affected your business as a tattoo artist specifically, and what kind of changes have you had to make?
I mean, I went through a lot of the same, I can assume, you can correct me, Dan, but our professions kind of have us doing the same thing where we have to
Yeah.
touch people for long periods of time, well over 15 minutes, which is what the CDC says, you know, was kind of the cutoff range of being within 6 feet of someone to transmit the virus.
Mm,
So I had been I saw the pandemic was going to hit the U.S. Maybe a couple months before it came, and that was just because I was randomly watching a dog rescue in China, like early in the year. Like I follow them because I'm just like, you know, save the dogs and stuff. And they happened to be close to Wuhan, where the virus outbreak happened, and so I was
mm.
organically watching it affect them. And then I was like, oh boy, is this going to be a big one? And then it started to race across Europe. So personally, I definitely rerouted some savings and financial things um, to be able to make up for possibly not working for 2 to 3 months
Mhm.
because I had watched the lockdown in China last for that long.
Mm.
So I wasn't even touching anybody. I didn't want to. I wasn't. We had no idea how this thing was being transmitted and what it was, all the effects it was going to have on people. And Virginia shut down all non-essential for the first 3 months of the pandemic, anyhow. I think from
Mm.
March till maybe June. Um, and I was thinking I would take that time to work on a lot of other side projects, you know, because I know that Dan does the same thing and we always have plates spinning. Like there's not, with Tatcha, you have probably more than just one thing for sure. You already named off a couple of different hats you wear just for that company. And so I was like, well, in a weird way, like Dan was saying, it was kind of a blessing in a weird disguise. Not a blessing, obviously, for the negative aspects of COVID, but whenever you work for yourself like we do, like you never get that kind of time off. That doesn't
Right.
happen.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I was hoping to get to all these side projects, and I actually got sucked into helping try to get personal protection equipment out into Richmond to
Mm.
healthcare to help with volunteers that were making cloth masks or trying to get people to kind of come up off their old dusty N95s and other stuff they've been
Right.
hiding in their attic to try to get it to healthcare and to the assisted living thing. So I took like the first 2 months plus to do that. But yeah, as far as like the impact it had, like Dan was talking about, of being able to really take that time to um, take a harder look at your life and what your priorities are. I mean, that yeah, I would underline that as well, that it continues to happen, honestly. Like it hasn't really stopped since the pandemic hit last year. It just feels like there's so many huge things that have happened, that it's a critical time for growth if you want to use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
true.
this kind of flows in away from that as well. For both of you, how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance while having careers that are definitely not 9-to-5 jobs?
Amy, you go first. I'm gonna shut my door real quick. Sorry.
I think that for me, it's going to be a very personal thing, right? It depends on your energetic output, your creative output, and what is going to be healthy boundaries for you. And I think that at some point throughout your career, you should be able to create a basic template for that kind of stuff, but also understand that you have to be adaptive with those boundaries. The goalposts that work for you one day maybe aren't going to work for you 2 months down the road, or maybe even the next day. So if you aren't flexible with understanding that kind of space, it's going to be really tough for you to be your own boss, let alone like working for other people too. So for me, it was just about kind of figuring out how much tattooing I could do, my body would let me do physically before I would start to get tired, because it's, you probably run into the same things, Dan, whenever you're doing makeup, I imagine, like standing there in front of somebody like this for hours.
Yeah, but I feel like with you, it's so different because it's like hairdressers that are hunched over
Yeah.
and you're working on something for such a, a long amount of time. Whereas, depending on the job, if I'm shooting a music video or if I'm doing an editorial, we're constantly moving. It might, you know what I mean? Like it's a longer day, but we're constantly moving, where you're stabilized in one spot. Like my eyesight's already going out, so I can't even imagine doing what you do and just, you know what I mean? I feel like yours is a little bit more grueling.
Well, I don't know, right? Like if I wore your shoes for a day, I might fight you on that and be like, no, but
Right.
but no.
Oh, she done froze.
Girl. Anyway. At least it was a good free frozen screen.
Right. You're like
Well, cool. So how about you, Dan?
Yeah.
I totally forgot your question, buddy. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance since you don't have a typical 9-to-5 job?
You know what? It's again, going back to COVID, it really made me connect with my friends. Like really making the time to spend, doing like Zoom birthdays with your friends or just checking in with your friends. That was something that I was really bad at doing because I traveled so much. And like we were talking about earlier, like people fatigue.
Yeah.
So much of our job is to take care of other people that when you have that time to yourself, you just want to crawl up in a ball and just kind of hold on to that energy because you're having to always fucking give it out and be on. So I've just learned to, just take more time for yourself. I've been really fortunate that I've been able to, continue my Pilates twice a week. And just making that time for yourself is really important, especially when you have a job where you're constantly giving it to people.
Do you feel happier? Have you noticed that you've been happier because you've been able to have more personal time?
Yeah.
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 Because I'm not like bitching and moaning about cleaning my makeup brushes and having to prepare myself for certain people. Because, some actors are emotional vampires and they will suck the life out of you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm really lucky that I work with a lot of great girls. But yeah, Crystal, in the chat, I hear you, cleaning makeup brushes takes forever. And especially with COVID, you need to make sure every damn brush is clean. Do you know what I mean? So like everything is spotless. Everything just takes a little bit more time. So my rule of thumb now is the amount of time I'm spending for someone else, I'm gonna do for me. So
Love that.
Awesome. This next question is for you again, Daniel. What was the conversation like when you were asked to do the makeup for Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, for her royal wedding in 2018?
oh my God, that's so funny. God, I can't believe it's been almost 3 years now.
Oh,
Um,
man.
it's crazy. 2018 was 3 years ago. Like so weird. I've known Megan for 10 years and we've been friends for 10 years. So to be honest, I wasn't expecting it. And when she asked me, it was on text. We didn't even do a trial because I was traveling for work. She was in London. So the last I saw her in January when I was in Paris for Couture, took the train to London to see her, and we didn't even, and that was supposed to have been the trial, and we didn't even do it because we're just talking the whole time. And I had to get back to Paris that night. So literally it was just like Pinterest pictures and text messages. And then the weekend of was when I saw her. So I mean, it was a cool experience, and but I didn't think anything of it because I treated it just like any other job with the client until after the fact.
To follow up with that, how much pressure did you feel compared to other clients? Since you just kind of hit on that it wasn't that different, but knowing that there would literally be millions of people staring at her face, like, because since they do over-examine everything when it comes to something so high profile, like, how was that?
I didn't, to be honest, they took our phones. So she also invited Corey and I to the wedding. So he was already there and I was with her, well, not with her in the car, but we were following her and her mom to the church. So it literally didn't hit me what was happening until we got closer to the church and we just saw lines of people just like on the sides. And that was like, oh shit. The other oh shit moment was Serge and I, who did her hair, and her assistant had to go through a side door to our seats. And as soon as we opened up the door, the first person we saw was Elton John. And we're literally just stopped for like 2 minutes and we're like, what the fuck is going on? But and then our seats were in the back. But what was really cool was that we sat in the back where the choir was.
Oh.
So when they stood there and they sang, it was literally just like coming through our bodies. It was so like visceral, because that type of music had never been sung in that church. And it was just, that's when it all hit me. And then I couldn't look at my phone the rest of the weekend because it was just too much. But
All right. Well,
okay, yeah.
yeah. I mean, because I remember you live streaming, like riding in the car, like up to basically the castle looking thing.
Oh, I got in so much trouble because I did a I'm glad that this is a small group because no one and I hope Daily Mail doesn't see this, but I literally I like did a I don't even think I didn't do a story. I just took a like quick video that I posted later.
Oh, okay.
But that just like that went viral. Yeah, like after, because I didn't get back into the hotel until late that evening at like after midnight.
Yeah.
Which would have been like 5 or 6 on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And that's when I posted it. And then the next day it was like in Daily Mail, like all these tabloids picked it up. And then I just remember like my publicist being like, I mean, at that point, it was all over the place, but it was madness.
Well, it's very interesting what they choose to put a big spotlight on, something as simple as that you thought was as simple as that, and yet they
Yeah,
still, like, all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, I shouldn't have done that. It's like, what's the big deal? And they make
yeah,
big deals out of lots of small deals. So,
right, right. So I've learned off my social to like not be so urgent in posting stuff because it can get manipulated.
all right. Well, Amy, when you started promoting the Pink Ink Fund on social media, you were posting photos of post-mastectomy tattoos. Did any of the apps like Instagram try to block you since it's technically nudity in their eyes?
So Instagram at that point wasn't owned by Facebook, and their policies clearly stated that they would allow mastectomy
Mhm.
tattoos to be posted, any surgically altered breasts, even with natural nipples, as long as they had been altered due to surgeries for breast reconstruction for breast cancer. They said that that was fine. So I clearly had marked all the photos and stuff I was posting at the time. I want to say it happened. I can't remember exactly what year it was. It was the year whenever that unfortunate shooting happened at the Bataclan in Paris.
Oh,
You remember that, Dan?
yeah, that I want to say that was like 6 years ago,
Maybe. Um,
6 or 5.
but I remember I'd started an Instagram account because there wasn't anything for survivors. Like there was very little visuals available for cancer survivors to see of mastectomy tattoos for nipples or even just like decorative stuff. And so I was like, well, let's post this. Instagram claims it's okay. And I just remember because I saw the news about the Bataclan, and then I woke up in the morning and my Instagram profile had been deleted, like the whole thing.
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, because I was trying. Some friends of mine were trying. We were trying to do a cross promo thing, and they were supposed to post and tag the charity account. And they were like, "It's gone," and they messaged me. They're like, "Hey, is everything okay? Like, the charity account's gone." I was like, "I don't know." And then I've logged in, and I got that stupid message they send you, and they're like, "Your account has been banned for blah blah blah." And for whatever reason, the friends I was supposed to do a cross promotion with, they were just like, "That's fucked up." I was like, "Yeah, it's fucked up." They're like, "We know some media people. Do you want to talk to them?" I was like, "I don't know if it'll do any good, but sure." Because at that point, like, no, someone like me didn't have any power over, changing Instagram and getting them to pay attention to my account being deleted. But that caught wildfire, and it was
Mm.
yes, like I think I just did one media thing that somebody posted, and suddenly someone else on my Facebook was just like casually commented like, "Hey, Pink Ink Fund trending," and I was like, "Trending? Why?" And it really pissed off some people, understandably so. Like breast cancer survivors started hearing about it, and the media picked it up.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah, so it ended up circulating around the globe. Like I kept on seeing notifications from different countries. And Instagram made a point to apologize formally for that.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just again got lucky, and so I mean, I still try. I definitely still follow their rules and whatever. Um, but I will hope that I don't have to deal with that for a charity account again, and neither should anyone else.
Yeah.
Pretty ridiculous.
I mean, considering what else people are showing on Instagram now with between the
Yeah,
plastic surgeons and
yeah.
you know, it's so dumb. Like,
Their censors are just. I mean, the people they hire, and I feel really bad for the people that have to go through and flag content and censor content, because that's a terrible job too. But yeah, I mean, they just aren't going to train them well enough to be able to look at a photo and realize that they're looking at a, you know, a surgically altered breast, or maybe not even a real nipple, a tattoo of one. You know,
Right, right,
that's a boob, delete, you know. So.
right.
Well, it means you're definitely doing your job well if it looks that believable, where somebody
Yeah.
who is clicking through and they're looking for something that, like, clearly you're drawing, you're doing your art as the recipient is hoping. But did you have any other issues with like Twitter or Facebook when it came to posting things like that?
Facebook continues to, you know, take some of my stuff down, and I just stopped posting nipple tattoos on Facebook because they've become so bad about it. And I just stick to Instagram. So for whatever reason, Facebook plays this game that there's some difference between Facebook and Instagram, even though they're both, it's basically Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Let's see. These last few questions are actually for both of you. So as I read them, just know that they're for both of you. What have been some of the challenges you have faced as a minority within your respective industries, and what allows you to overcome these challenges?
You can go ahead, Amy.
Yeah. Your turn. You do it.
I mean, I've dealt with my own fair share of stupid. I've shown up on set where they thought I was the manicurist.
Oh,
I've shown up on set where they thought I was the assistant to Daniel Martin. Even to the point where I showed up on a job in London and they didn't, literally the guy said to me, they were waiting for Daniel Martin to show up. And I was the first one there on set. And they thought I was the assistant too. And we're like 15 minutes after call time and everybody's there. And the guy comes by and he's like, oh, I'm calling the makeup artist's agent because he's not here. And everyone's just like, he's right here. And he looked at me and he was like, oh, but you're Asian. And then me and my assistant we just couldn't, it was so dumb we couldn't say anything. So what I've learned is, you know, to speak up and like find my voice, because it's fucked up. But I have to say, you know, after what everyone dealt with politically last summer, I was able to find my voice. And that's why I've been, you know, talking about this and, you know, sharing these stories, because the more representation, the more, you know, people understand, the more hopefully they will, you know, get that, you know, we're not all the same. Hello? You guys there?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know
It was like quiet. I was like,
crickets. No, I was just listening. I don't know
So,
if are you, oh yeah, you're still there.
yeah, so what about you, Amy? With the same question.
I mean, the tattoo scene is a boys club, and probably around the globe, it's a white man's club for the most part, to be totally honest. And that never deterred me. If anything, it made me even more focused to break down that barrier, you know? And I think that kind of comes with the tattoo world. It's, you know, what I love about it is that, well, it used to be non-corporate. You know, it's definitely become way more mainstream than it was when I first got into it. So just from that aspect, you know, I've been pretty lucky. There hasn't been a lot that I've had to deal with. There was some issues when I was first trying to look for an apprenticeship that weren't necessarily minority-based problems. Like one guy told me he didn't want a woman working in his shop. And, um, The name thing, though, is an interesting thing to bring up, because I can identify with Dan so deeply on people not associating me with my name. That's happened my whole life, and I know that's
Right.
happened for Dan too. Um, so I don't know. I guess I just assume that will probably happen to us until the day we die. Someone's gonna be like, "Oh, who's Daniel Martin? Who's this Asian guy named Daniel? This can't be Daniel Martin, right?" And who's her? Um, so yeah, I don't know. It just there the it I've probably been able to. Oh, what'd you say, Melissa? Feel that? Oh, yeah. It is, yes. So then there's other people who, if you used a cultural ethnic name that isn't easily pronounced, like you also have to deal with the other end of that spectrum for sure, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I don't know how to pronounce her name, but Tandy Newton. I saw, that she just came out and reclaimed.
Yeah.
I had no idea that that was her natural name with the different spelling, and I'm so glad that she's gotten to that point.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. There's just always going to be something that comes up as far as being a minority in any industry, especially in the tattoo scene for sure. Sorry, Dan, I'm just so shocked that people have been that bad about with you.
Welcome. I mean, the whole thing in London that happened probably like maybe 8 years ago.
Uh,
Um, but it's funny. I want to say that I've experienced these microaggressions as an adult than I did as a kid.
hmm,
And I mean, my dad's white, he's French, my mother's Vietnamese. I'm the only one in my family that looks full Asian. My brother and sister look more Latinx, or mixed. And I grew up in Central America. I lived in Seoul, Korea. I actually experienced more racism from other Asians when I lived in Seoul. And it's because the colorism there is so bad.
Koreans can be very racist. People don't know this, but Asians can really hate on each other, other Asians.
Yeah, so that's a whole other
Yes.
Zoom call
Yeah.
situation because it runs deep
Yes.
historically.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
can I answer Annie's question?
of
I mean,
course.
Okay. Did you ever get any hesitation and criticism from your AAPI community for pursuing an artistic career? I know for many Asian Americans, including myself, many parents. Oh, 100%. Yeah,
oh,
that's a really great question, Annie. Um, I, yeah, when I was an art history major and I decided to drop out of school to be a club kid, yeah, my parents weren't happy about that. I mean, and honestly, it wasn't until Google that my parents really understood what I did with makeup. They thought for the longest time that I just was a counter girl, that I worked at the mall and was selling makeup, or I was the Avon lady. I have no idea. But until my dad was able to Google his son and he then understood what I did. But yeah, it was definitely a long road. What about you, Amy?
well, so with your blended family, my stories always gets fun because I'm adopted from Korea, from South Korea, and my entire family tree is whiter than white. I mean, like I've always joked, it couldn't get any whiter, and so um, I didn't have the issues of dealing with I'm trying to think of Annie's questions of dealing with Asian parents. Is that what she's asking? Right? That wanted to push their kids into like medical or whatever. So yeah, I didn't face that from that end. But yeah, that's a whole other Zoom meeting.
Right.
All right. What are some industry changes in your respective industries in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion that you hope to see?
Amy?
I mean, I think it's already been happening. I've noticed more and more women that have been getting into the tattoo scene for sure over the past decade. And definitely noticing more people of color. So yeah, the tattoo industry, like I mentioned earlier, it's not the same as other industries because it's not corporate. So it's not like there's some ruling body that can force affirmative action or anything like that. But I can say that by having representation and visibility of seeing people like myself out there in the scene, it encourages other people of color and genders to know that they can do this, that they can get into the tattoo industry, have a viable career, and all of that. So yeah, that kind of stuff just takes time, I think, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like Amy said, representation is huge, especially in a creative field, um, because there is that stigma of, you need to do X, Y, and Z to be successful. And, I would say within the last 10, 15 years, our parents' generation, we don't have that stability with our Gen X folks. We don't have the securities of a pension anymore. We don't have a lot of those that our parents had. So, we're now being resourceful and trying to create, turn our passion into commerce, really, and being our own boss. So, I think it's being more accepted. And I think, but we also need to change that ideology as well, that, not everything amounts to money. There's other ways of success, just finding what you love. And I think once you're passionate about something, that success will come because your work ethic becomes stronger. What you want to do, it doesn't become work in your brain. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're constantly going to create because you love creating. And if you can make money doing it, amazing.
Agreed.
This is another one for both of you. Since you've been in your respective fields for decades at this point, what advice would you give?
We sound so old. Decades.
And just got started. What are you talking about?
Yeah. You've been in your respective career fields for a while. And what advice would you give to your younger selves, and what would you like your legacy to be?
Yeah, you got
it. Oh my goodness. God, this is like one of those like RuPaul Drag Race questions at the end of the series where I don't know if you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, Dave. You probably don't. I know I can call Carol on this, but but at the end of the season, Ru and Michelle and whoever the third, usually Ron, oh gosh, I forgot, Ron, is that his name? Anyways, they asked the finalists like, oh, Ross, thank you, Crystal, Ross. What advice would you give your younger self? Oh gosh, I have to say, I'm really, really lucky that I was able to do what I set myself out to do. Move to New York. I didn't know what I was gonna have as a job, but discover makeup and be able to do this on such a capacity that I think if I could tell, my younger self anything, it's just to, be patient, find what it is that you love and that you want to do. And if you want to do it, I guess you can, hard work and you can manage. I can't. Yes. Say it again. I can't. I don't. Yes. It's funny. I'm thinking about Maleficent.
Maleficent?
Yes. And manifest it.
I feel you.
Amy, your turn.
Okay. I went first, the last question, I think. So that's why I was like, it's your turn. I've been asked this question before, and my answer hasn't changed too much. It would just be, honestly, it's cheesy stuff whenever you first hear it, but when you actually apply it to your life, it just has this whole other meaning, especially when you go through struggles. And
Yeah.
the simple phrase of never give up, like that was the basis of the first tattoo I got. It was that simple. It just was like, never give up. And that has echoed throughout my life, because there have been really hard times. There's been moments when I wasn't sure if I'd be able to keep the shop going, for instance. Or there would just be like personal stuff going on that I wasn't sure if that was going to, really change the course of my life. And at some point, that was kind of like one of my mantras for such a long time.
It's
So
so true though. It really is.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, never give up.
Yeah, right. I mean, I feel like, Dan, you probably definitely have said that like many times or in your young life and still now, right?
Yeah, yeah. I tell my assistants that, anybody who's looking for a career change, or, you know, so much of it is identifying the passion that you have for something.
Hmm.
And then when you love something so much, things just happen.
Hmm.
Um,
And I
so
think,
yeah.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say that the never give up thing, like that can really parlay into a lot of different aspects. Um, And I think if you never give up, it also means you do things like you find your integrity, you start to establish your healthy boundaries, and you start to see how flexible and adaptive you can be, which I mentioned earlier. Like, nothing has saved me more than being able to adapt.
Right.
And really, the basis of it, adaptation, is just that, is never giving up, being willing to do what it takes to keep your dream alive, even if that
Hmm.
means you have to put your dream on hold sometimes, or if you
Yeah.
pick up a second job in order to keep that dream going.
Yeah.
You just have to keep,
100%.
yeah, you just have to keep going.
Okay, our last question before the Q&A after this is, and it's a good follow-up to the younger selves question, is if you could pass along one piece of advice to someone wanting to follow in your footsteps, what would it be? Besides never give up.
Besides never give up, I'm trying to think of what else. Like, there's just so much, at least in my life, that was just all about just to keep going and to stay open, um, and to not give up on yourself, um, and to always be a student.
Hmm.
To
That's
realize
really
that
important.
you're never gonna stop learning. You're not. Yeah. That's almost maybe one of the biggest things that I love in life, is just to always be open to learning new things, even with the repetitive things that might happen in your life. Like, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got from another tattoo artist is that every single tattoo you do, no matter how small, is always a learning experience. You can always find something to keep on working on. Um, so yeah, that keeps me going, and
That's so
that's what I
true.
would, yeah, that's what I would tell anyone that wanted to do do what I've been doing. What about you, Dan?
Um, I would say be grateful.
Mm,
Um, you know, don't burn any bridges, because you don't know who will come back into your life. You don't know where they're going. Um, and like you said, just constantly always be open to learning.
yeah,
That's just the journey of life, really. And as long as you keep an open heart, so much will come. I think if you hone in too much on and almost try to micromanage that manifestation, then it's just not going to happen, because there's just so many other things that could help get you to where you need to go.
Cool. All right, well, that was my question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute everybody. And if anybody has a question they would like to ask, they can speak up, and it'll be just a second while I get everybody unmuted.
That's super true though. Like I found that so many times, Dan, like you can't micromanage, you can't have tunnel vision, because manifestation, I believe, is about openness, right? Like growth is like this kind of energy. It's not like that.
Yeah.
You know?
And if something bad happens, try to understand why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that brought that cause into your life for you to experience that, and to really identify what can I do better that it doesn't happen again.
Right. Again, like it's a learning experience. Like be a student of it. Don't let that bad experience become like, you know, a stopping point or a barrier. Or like, you know, we all fail. We all have failure.
Right.
Well, does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, if you have any questions, you can just drop them in the chat as well, if it's easier than not having your mic on.
I think you can also raise a hand in the chat if you have a question. It's always hard being the first person. Everybody has that, like, I don't want to be the first person asking a question. I'm usually the first person always in the Zoom. I'm like, fuck it. Let me ask something.
Right.
Break this ice.
Totally.
Let's see here. I'm not seeing any hands raised. And I gave everybody the option to be
Hi,
unmuted.
Thea.
Hey, Thea. Thanks for hanging out.
Hi,
Thanks for
guys.
tuning in. I love you. I miss you. I need
love
to
and
come
miss you
visit
too.
soon.
Please do.
Millicent has a hand, a raised hand.
Okay. Let's see.
Thanks for sharing. This was what I listened to while I was cooking my dinner. It was nice to.
Oh, nice.
It feels like I'm
It's
eating
like a
dinner.
pseudo podcast. Cool.
But I'm curious what your favorite things to do around Richmond are.
Amy, you go first, because I haven't been back in so long. I don't even know if it's there.
You don't even know what's left.
Yeah. And like twisters, pyramid.
You said Austin's and Carytown. I was like, oh, yes.
Right.
Like Austin's is gone. Like they just closed,
they
I think. Oh, maybe they moved. I don't know.
No, I mean, I know that the business dissolved. So I don't know what's, like, I don't even know what's in Carytown anymore. The only thing I know that's in Carytown is World of Mirth. That's like the historic landmark for me of Carytown. And yeah, Thea, me.
I actually, for me, I love Richmond because you can basically spend a lot of time by yourself and get and you're not stuck like in a concrete jungle, so to speak. Although I do love that about New York City. I love big cities. But for Richmond, it's great for me creatively because I need a lot of decompression time after work. And so it's nice to just be able to get to my house, and I have a dog, and I know Brian, you have the kitty cat one, right?
My kitty, yes, Wheezy.
And I probably have a pretty boring sounding life outside of work. I don't know about you, Dan, but I just like to get home, decompress, get outside with the dog, and do that. But I'd say if I'm not doing that, then it might just be like hitting up a local friend's restaurant, you know, because I love a lot of the local food that's been popping up in Richmond. The VMFA, I will go to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts every once in a while just to kind of refresh, or if they have a new exhibit. Yeah, I don't know. I think the other thing I kind of like about Richmond is you can just like, it's so laid back here. You know, it really allowed me creatively to focus more on that than being too overly distracted by the city. Like, it's easy to go down to the river. It's easy to go down to any of the parks and whatnot. And I like that. So I don't know, Dan, what about you from what you
I mean, gosh, what I remember or what I used to always love is just, you know, seeing friends, going out to eat.
yeah.
You know, there were some clubs that were there that I know aren't there anymore. But I really got a sense of community there, which I loved. And you don't necessarily have that here in New York. I mean, you have your pot of people. Like one of my best friends from Richmond, Summer, we're still as close, and she's up here with me. So she's kind of like my connection to, you know, to Richmond. But like Thea, I've known for 25 plus, like maybe 26 years now. We met in 1995. Oh,
When you were both like 5 years old.
Yeah, you just
yeah.
met yesterday.
and I also came out in Richmond, so like I'm always gonna have a connection to Richmond. And like, I mean, my husband's home and he's a New Yorker, but like if you know, God forbid anything were to happen, I would go back down to Richmond. I would, you know, I would move to Richmond before I moved back to Seattle. That's just how connected I am to the city. But there's just something really, really special about living in the fan and just, I don't know. I just have this special, special bond to Richmond.
I mean, I can't disagree with you. You know, for some reason, I thought about whenever you were just talking about the energy vampire thing. It's like, I think one of the things I loved when I came to Richmond is that it felt like such a good source of energy, like of giving.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it drained me. Like I came here, and by the time I was leaving Columbus, like the clubs I was going to were shutting down. You know, my friends were starting to have kids and everything was starting to slow down, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I came
Right.
here and I was like, whoa, like kids are still having like house shows here, and just all this like crazy cool energy was here. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, when I moved to Richmond in, I think it was like 95, the art scene there was booming. Like there were so many artists. And when I came out, there was an LGBTQ group, a VCU group club that I wound up going to. And that's where I met so many other people. So I don't like, you know, this sense of community always comes up for me there. And I still have the same great friends. They've all had kids now, and it's just a really, really special place. I know as an, you know, 20 plus years later, I would still go back and see those same people. But, you know, going there to college and then leaving, I would understand. I don't know a lot of people who went to VCU and stayed, but because I mean, I have to admit, it can get complacent in Richmond.
Yes. No, it does run that risk as well. And I think
Yeah.
that for me, I didn't have that because I moved here from a city where I felt like that was happening. Like I
Right.
kind of specifically I moved out of Ohio to hopefully get a career, like my life started. Because I was just working minimum wage jobs back in Ohio and just kind of still
Mhm.
getting out of going out to the clubs and stuff, and you know, kind of letting the party life die down, and
Right.
yeah, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. So
And that was the great thing about doing that in Richmond.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I think I was working at Tower and then working with Thea at Up Against the Wall. And then I kind of started working at Austin's. So you can juggle those jobs
Yes.
and it's all good.
Yes. That's true. And that's another thing I tell people about Richmond. I'm like, the cost of living here, it kind of like helps if you want to do a creative job, you can do it here. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to own the shop that I have up in New York City and still travel and do all the other things I've been able to do with my life because I'd be killing myself to pay rent, you know?
Yeah.
Annie has
Yeah.
a question, and
Hi,
so
Annie.
Miriam too. Annie,
Awesome.
do you want to unmute
Oh,
yourself?
hi.
Hi.
I want to turn on my camera so you guys know what I look like. Yeah, so what advice would you give to college students who are interested in doing PR for creative companies like Tatcha or just getting involved to work in the beauty industry in general?
Oh, that's a great question. What I would do is I would reach out to um, that this is the messed up thing about COVID right now, because I know so many brands who need interns, but everyone's working remotely. So what I would I would do is reach out. I know a lot of places list jobs on, I believe it's called Glassdoor, like a lot of the marketing type jobs. You can also DM some of these brands on Instagram, because whoever's handling the Instagram account is part of the marketing team, which is usually connected with PR. So just kind of depending on the brands that you want to work with. If they're an Estee Lauder owned brand, you would have to go to Lauder's website, which I think lists all the brands and their job openings, and the same as L'Oreal. But that's kind of like where I would start first, is just DM people. Also, I don't know if you're familiar with Clubhouse. Clubhouse is kind of like live streaming podcasts, and there are a lot of brands that are on there talking about how to connect with with themselves. So if you're able, I right now Clubhouse is invite only, but if you reach out to me on Instagram, I will send you a Clubhouse invite, because I have like, I think 10 or something, and then sign up. And then there's all these beauty rooms that have clubs on there that talk about exactly what you're interested in. And it's a great resource, and it's a great way to connect. So I would actually try Clubhouse. So reach out to me on IG, tell just say that you're Annie from here, and then I'll hook you up with a Clubhouse invite, and then literally you're going to discover so much on Clubhouse.
That's so cool because I got invited to Clubhouse and I wasn't sure if it was something that would be utilitarian for me.
Oh my God, you would love it. I listen to Clubhouse like before bed, because it just kind of like winds my brain down. You have the option of wanting, some people will invite you to the stage if you want to speak on a specific topic, but it's a great way to network. It's a great way to hear other people's stories. And it's just easy. Do you know what I mean? Like I found that the community there is pretty awesome. There's not a lot of trolling that happens on there. But it's kind of like a safe space to just kind of learn about different things. You can search by topic.
Yeah.
And literally it's a really fun, easy kind of listen. Like I was in a room that was like, I think it was like close to 2,000 people, and it was a 90s hip hop and R&B room. So it had like Cisco and Jodeci, like all these 90s R&B singers in this Clubhouse chat. And they were just talking about their journey and how, the industry has changed from then to now. It was so fascinating, and just hearing about like who made money, who didn't make money. Yeah, so Annie, reach out to me on Instagram. I'll send you a Clubhouse invite, and you'll get lost with all the information that's there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Cool.
I got a question from Miriam. It's, what have you been some things recently that you've engaged in that have felt revitalizing? thinking about coping from the energy vampires in our lives, how do you pour back into yourself?
Oh, that's such a great question.
You want to take it, Dan?
Oh,
Or do you...
you take it. Let me give it. Let me give it because I want to give you a different answer.
I am pretty empathetic. Like, I don't know. Some people say they're an empath, or however you want to label that. And it's basically just being really open to people and compassionate, so that you can understand somebody, not only through their body language, but maybe through the vibe that they're giving off. And I know, Dan, you totally understand that, probably 1,000%. And so what happens, though, is that you do have to sort of figure out how you want to navigate through that kind of energetic exchange with people, especially when you're so close to them, and having to touch them like Dan and I have to. So for me, what has worked for me is like learning how to decompress, have healthy boundaries, which I've mentioned before. That helps me pour back into myself. And maybe I've always been a spiritual person. I didn't necessarily identify or label myself with any particular religion, so to speak. But a couple of years back, I started to investigate Buddhism, and for me, Tibetan Buddhism, and I started to follow the Dalai Lama. And I found a community there for me personally that really became a cornerstone of doing something like the idea of pouring back into yourself. So
Yeah.
that's just a little piece of what works for me. Other than that, like, catching up with close friends, like that can be really great. And just, I think probably all the other little things that people like to get into. But what do you think, Dan?
No, I mean, that's such a great question, because I feel like right now, because we all experienced COVID, that it kind of leveled out, I don't want to say the playing field, but it all made us on the same level. Do you know what I mean? Like, it really made us stop and reassess, reset. If anything, just taking that time just to be present with yourself. I mean, I'm very fortunate that I live 2 blocks from Central Park. So I can walk to Central Park and just get lost in the park and just have, listen to music, or, just watch people. That's been a really great reset for me. And just to be mindful of the moment. And I think that helps, just to take, like you said, Amy, take that time for yourself, whether it's a meditation while you're brushing your teeth, or sitting on a park bench, or whatever it is. Just that little self-care really goes a long way.
Oh yeah.
That's a great question, Miriam.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions before we can wrap it up otherwise? Well, I will take that as a no. And, but I do want to thank everybody that came, and the folks that left early. Maybe they'll watch this when it appears back on our OMSA website in the future. And but I want to thank especially Daniel Martin and Amy Black. I'll be adding links to their respective companies and charities when this video is uploaded as well. And thank you all very much for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.